at the Staples Center, but it ain't in a Lakers uniform. They're wearing Clippers uniform. All of that is stuff that I plan on getting into. Nate Burleson, NFL analyst extraordinaire for the NFL Network, along with CBS on Sundays. He will be on the show with us. I'm looking forward to talking to him. Of course, the great Paul Feinbaum is coming on with us at the top of hour number 2 right here at the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Plus, there are some people out there, particularly in social media, that dare I say has a problem with moi about my position on cannabis, a.k.a. weed. Well, that's definitely something that I will address and talk about in the minutes to come. Matter of fact, I'm going to make sure I talk about that in this first segment, but not before I get into what transpired on Monday Night Football last night. The Pittsburgh Steelers, led by Mason Rudolph, ran roughshod over the Cincinnati Bengals, ended up winning the game 27-3. The defense sacked Andy Dalton 8 times, held him to 171 yards of passing, let him finish the evening with a 57.4% passer rating. Mason Rudolph, meanwhile, completed 24-28 passes for 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 124.6 rating, not to mention the fact that at one point, he completed 17 of 18 passes. Ladies and gentlemen, as a result, the Pittsburgh Steelers won their first game of the season. At 1-3, they're only a game back of the 2-2 Browns and Baltimore Ravens. There's obviously a lot to hope for, considering the fact that 3/4 of the season still remains. But I'm not excited. And I'm not excited for a very, very simple reason. The Cincinnati Bengals suck. They're awful. This is a god-awful, disgustingly bad football team. There's no way to slice this. There's really no way to slice this. The offensive line is horrid. What, all of a sudden, Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard forgot how to run the football? They didn't forget, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody's blocking for them. Just like nobody was blocking for Andy Dalton last night. They're awful. Just smacked around and pushed around. Talk about how they got embarrassed on Monday Night Football. The organization has historically been an embarrassment. Because you got an owner who's cheap. He's a miser. He's about underpaying dudes and keeping more money in his pocket. He doesn't prioritize winning. He robs the citizens of Cincinnati every damn year. Now, don't get me wrong. I am in complete support of Marvin Lewis being gone. Don't y'all think for one second that I've backtracked from that position. I've never once said that Marvin Lewis doesn't deserve to be a head coach. What I said is he doesn't deserve to be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, because when you go 16 years and can't win one damn playoff game, you've had your time. It is a disgrace for anybody to be allowed to stay in a position where they are stagnant. There is no growth. There is continual ineptitude. That is not setting an example, particularly when you're asking other folks to patronize your product with their money. It's not right. You can't sit up there and come short. 16 years without a playoff win? 16 years. Ladies and gentlemen, 16 years ago, I had an afro. You could have called me Michael Jackson, or Michael Jackson's little cousin from the Jackson 5. That's what you could have called me. I had an afro 16 years ago. I don't want to hear no damn thing about Marvin Lewis. 16 years, you couldn't win one playoff game. Not one. I stand by my position with Marvin Lewis. I mean, no harm to him and his family. I don't want him not receiving a paycheck. I don't want him to have an inability to feed his family and to take care of his bills and all of this other stuff. I don't give a damn what money you give him. He just shouldn't be as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. Because when you have 16 years to produce and you can't come up with one playoff win, not one, 0 for 7, you got to go. But that doesn't mean that Zach Taylor should have been a head coach. former special teams coach for the Los Angeles Rams. I think that was the position he held. He just, you know how you can just look at somebody on the sidelines and just see that they're in over their head? That's what I saw when I saw Zach Taylor yesterday. It's not to say that he won't be a head coach. It's not to say that somewhere down the line the Cincinnati Bengals won't produce. But just looking at him last night, everything said, damn, he ain't ready yet. He might have needed to wait another couple of years before he got a head coaching job. He ain't ready for this yet. Everything you saw last night spoke to that. They stink. They just stink. Steelers got it. I mean, this kid, James Conner, had a nice 21-yard run, but on the afternoon, 10 carries for 41 yards on the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not that impressive. I'm reading from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, an outstanding newspaper. They do a great, great job covering the Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to know about it? Read the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. They cover this team backwards and forwards. Nobody does it better. No question about it. I'm not here to cast any aspersions on them as a publication at all, nor any of its writers. Ron Cook, by the way, one of their columnists, is one of my favorite people to read. Let me be very clear. But you actually had them. This is how far the Steelers have fallen. You actually had them making a big deal about the fact that Conner had 42 yards rushing and Samuel had 26 yards rushing. They actually were making a big deal about that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 68 yards combined, rushing the football on 20 carries. And you had these folks sitting up there telling, I mean, my goodness, to throw them into the Hall of Fame. Nah. Mason Rudolph was asked to exercise this short yardage passing game. He hit that kid Deontay Johnson on a fly pattern for 43 yards, across the field rather. Left side of near the end zone, 43-yard bomb. Ladies and gentlemen, there wasn't a Cincinnati Bengal within 25 feet of him. Call it a miscommunication. Call it people not knowing what the hell they were doing. Call it whatever you want. There was not a single Cincinnati Bengal defender within 25 yards of him. There were missed tackles. There were botched plays. There were missed assignments. There was no enthusiasm. The only person on the Cincinnati Bengals that appeared remotely enthusiastic was Andy Dalton when he went on the sideline and threw his helmet at the bench in frustration. That is it. There was nobody within the vicinity of Johnson. This is just a bad situation. Cincinnati's 0-4. Their season is already over. Remember, Cincinnati's in Ohio. That means the weather's about to get cold if it's not already. I mean, you would think that the football team would give them something to look forward to. Ain't happening. No, can't do that. Can't give them something to look forward to. The team is sticking up the joint on its own. Ain't even past gas yet, and they still stink. They're sorry. That's who they are. That's who they are. The last time folks in Cincinnati had something to smile about was one of Cat Williams' stand-up comedy shows when he showed up in Cincinnati. That's about it. I saw that on tape, by the way. It was fly. Cat Williams is funny as hell. But I digress. That's the last time they had anything to cheer about. Reds ain't giving you nothing to cheer about. Bengals ain't giving you nothing to cheer about. And they don't have a basketball team. I mean, it's a damn shame. Oh, I'm sorry. They got to go over to Louisville, Kentucky to watch the Cardinals, which ain't being coached by Rick Pitino anymore, by the way. Good luck with that. Or you could go to Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky. That's nearby Cincinnati, too, I guess. John Calipari have a national championship contender. That's about it. That's their version of pro basketball in Cincinnati. Unless they want to trek to Cleveland, and LeBron James ain't there no more. I mean, this is some trifling stuff that the football team can't find a way to get it together. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And as it pertains to the Pittsburgh Steelers, let me say this. Everybody knows how much I love the Steelers. Everybody knows how I unapologetically root for my brother, Mike Tomlin. James Conner ain't Le'Veon Bell. Juju Smith-Schuster's got 17 receptions for about 258 yards. Can't get anything going. Just had 3 receptions last night. I need to see more from him. I ain't seeing it. Life ain't the same without Antonio Brown. And you the number one guy now, is it? I'm not disrespecting Juju Smith-Schuster. I like him a lot. I'm simply saying we got to be careful about elevating people above their grade before they're ready. The dude's 21, 22 years old. Nobody thought about that when they were talking about him being the number one. And because you got James Washington or somebody else, like a Vance McDonald and Deontay Johnson, because guess what? They don't have to double those dudes. They'll just double you. And as a result of doubling Juju Smith-Schuster, he ain't going to do the same things he did when Antonio Brown was on the opposite side of the field. So everywhere you turn, the Steelers have been compromised. And I'm supposed to believe in them? Cleveland might have had its troubles. Cleveland might have a second-year quarterback and a rookie head coach. A second-year quarterback in Baker Mayfield only completing 25% of his passes in the red zone. A first-year coach in Freddie Kitchens that has made a comedy of errors in this young season. But they are 2-2. There have been some good moments for both of them. And I happen to believe in both of them. I think that Baker Mayfield is going to be pretty damn good. I think Freddie Kitchens is going to end up being pretty damn good. It doesn't mean they should have been sticking out their chest, bloviating about who they are and how good they are and all of this other stuff before they actually went out on the field and did it. It doesn't mean that Baker Mayfield should be standing up at press conferences talking about, oh, we remember people threw us in the trash. We ain't going to forget. See, he worried about the same things instead of doing what Freddie Kitchens told him to do, and that's be worried about nothing else but what's going on in this locker room. But Baker Mayfield is clearly preoccupied, which, by the way, I don't mind because for the purposes of our business, that's a good thing. Now, he's giving us headlines, and he's not a scrub. He can play, and he ain't a knucklehead that's getting himself into any kind of issues like Johnny Manziel was. And I'm not disrespecting Johnny Manziel. I'm just speaking fact. So I like Baker Mayfield's upside. I like his personality. I just think he's pointing his ire in the wrong direction. We get paid to chronicle what you do. And when you stink up the joint, we got to say so. Just like when you play well, throwing for 342 yards the other day. Complete 21 to 31 passes. We gave you props. Dropping 40 on the Baltimore Ravens. We gave you props. Now we got to see what Cleveland's going to do from here. And also what Baltimore's going to do from here. And what Pittsburgh's going to do going up against Baltimore this upcoming week in Pittsburgh. We shall see. Because with Baltimore having given up back-to-back 500-plus yards against Kansas City and then Cleveland, what do you think they're going to be looking to do against Mason Rudolph and the Steelers? Can Mason Rudolph handle that? We're about to find out. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Now, let me switch gears. Because I came into my office this morning, and I was greeted by my social media guy who informed me, alerted me, and then showed me a video of former NBA player Matt Barnes talking about me. Matt Barnes has been in the NBA for several years, several teams, retired from basketball, at least for the time being. Not obviously, but he's about to start a podcast for Showtime. Actually, congratulations to him. It's with my man Steven Jackson. You can see him on ESPN sometimes. Sometimes you can see him on FS1 giving basketball analysis. By the way, let me say this. He's pretty damn good. I actually wish we had Steven Jackson on the show on ESPN more. That's a note, a tip to executives at ESPN. Steven Jackson, call a brother, knows a thing or two about the NBA. Rachel Nichols has him on her show to jump sometimes. Brother know what he's talking about now. And he's real. Well, him and Matt Barnes started a podcast together. And they obviously were doing this podcast, about to be on Showtime. Matt Barnes specifically has taken issue with my position about weed. Listen to what Matt Barnes went on social media and said about moi.
Stephen A., first and foremost, I want to say, man, I respect you a lot and appreciate what you've done for basketball, but sports in general, with the way you bring people news. But I got to say, man, I'm really bothered by your stance on cannabis and your lack of knowledge of cannabis and the portrayals you put out into the media, considering your platform is so big that people really listen and follow behind you. But on this subject, you have very little knowledge, and you continue to make a mockery out of something that a lot of us take very serious and really depend on and know the benefits and how much it can really help not only athletes but everyone from our grandparents to children. So with that said, I'm launching my podcast with Steven Jackson, All the Smoke, next month with Showtime, and we'd like to fly you out to have an educated conversation / debate about it and put all the to bed. Let me know what's up.
That was Matt Barnes. For those of you who don't know, let me remind you who Matt Barnes is. Matt Barnes is a former NBA player. He's 39 years of age. I didn't hear about the retirement, but I'm assuming he's retiring. He played for various teams throughout his NBA career. Played for the Clippers, played for the Sacramento Kings, played for the New York Knicks, played for the Philadelphia 76ers, played for the Golden State Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, the Orlando Magic, the Lakers, the Clippers again, and then Memphis. And then in 2016, 2017, Sacramento and Golden State as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams. 7, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 9 teams over 16 years. There are those of you that no doubt heard that. There are those of you, no doubt, who saw that on social media. And you expect me to come back at Matt Barnes. Let me assure you of something. That ain't going to happen. I got very, very bad news for you. I love Matt Barnes. And I love Steven Jackson. I love both of those brothers. We ain't talking about points, ability, or whatever, even though both of them could play and Steven Jackson's a champion. We ain't talking about none of that. I'm going to tell you why I love them. They're as real as it gets. Ain't a phony bone in their body. I want everybody to understand that video, that sound that I just played on this radio show, that Matt Barnes said on social media, I found zero, absolutely nothing disrespectful about what he had to say. He's absolutely right. I am ill-informed about weed, cannabis. I am. Facts. Totally ill-informed about it. That's not my position. My position is against recreational use of weed, not for medicinal purposes. But I'm not going to elaborate on that too much today. I don't blame Matt Barnes. Obviously, it's a serious subject to him. It's a serious subject to Steven Jackson. It's a serious subject to a lot of NBA players and professional athletes out there who are investing in the cannabis business, by the way. It's become very, very profitable for some people. I remember reading something about Al Harrington, former NBA player. It's very profitable to him. Nate Burleson, I got to double check. I think he's got investment in one of the companies. I'm not sure about that, but listen, it's not a joke to them. So Matt Barnes taking offense to something that I say. Now, I got my own position to defend, but I want to make sure that I emphasize to everybody, I got nothing but respect for where he's coming from. And if Steven Jackson feels the same way, I got nothing. Those are two brothers that could come up to me and say to me, Stephen A., we need to talk to you. We think you got something wrong. And even though I listen to most people, I damn sure am going to listen to them. I got mad love and respect for both of them. We all go back a long ways. And me as an NBA reporter covering those dudes, they have never lied to me, ever. Anytime I've spoken to them, I've gotten nothing but truth and realness and total fairness and authenticity from the both of them. From the both of them. They are as real as it gets, and they good with me. The only reason I bring this up is because of the issue of my issue about weed and athletes. And number two, because Matt Barnes invited me on his podcast. Now, just so you know, I work for ESPN. And so they said it's going to be Showtime. I have to get permission, just in the interest of full disclosure. I cannot do the interview without ESPN's permission. But if ESPN says yeah, and I'm going to encourage them to do so, it would be my honor and privilege to show up for that interview. Number one, because I'll be talking to two dudes that are like brothers to me. And number two, because I think it's a subject worthy of discussion. Because the one thing that does get lost in the shuffle, we see cats tatted up and you know what, they hardcore and stuff. They come from the streets and everybody all automatically thinks that they're devoid of intelligence. Those two brothers are smart as hell. They're thinkers. They're smart. They know how to articulate their thoughts. They speak logically about things. They speak factually about things. And even when they disagree with you, they got a perspective that you got to respect. My response is, so do I. So I'm hopeful. First of all, we're going to talk. The three of us going to talk anyway. Because like I told you, I got love for them. But the other side to all of this is that I'm going to ask if I could come on that podcast. Because Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, I would love to come on as a guest. And I appreciate the invite. And there's another thing. See, this is kind of stuff. This is another thing that y'all need to realize about realness. There's a whole bunch of people out there in social media and beyond. Some cats got shows and all of this other stuff. And they chirp, chirp, chirp behind your back. That ain't Matt Barnes. That ain't Steven Jackson. If you know anything about them, they don't roll like that. That's not who they are. They got an issue with me, what they do. They reached out. Come on, let's do this. I respect that. I wish more people did that. I wish more of these athletes in football and basketball could invite me. You got a problem with what I said? Do what Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. Invite me. And I'm only telling y'all that because I want to come on. I want to accept the invite. I just can't do it without ESPN's okay because it's a different network. So the business of networks and all of that stuff is something that you have to pay attention to. That's what I have to do. That's what I have to deal with. But I wanted the world to know they invited me, and I want them to know and the world to know I am more than happy to come on and have this discussion, Matt Barnes. You will be hearing from me very, very shortly. And I hope I can come on, bro. I appreciate the invite. Nothing but love for you, man. Nothing but love for you. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's